Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would anybody like to lead us in a short prayer? If not, I'll ask Mr. Pillar to do it.
Volunteer.
All right, no volunteers, all right. Please stand if you would.
Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray that you watch over the activities of tonight's meetings, that we can glorify you with the decisions that we make, and that we can uphold the rules of our city, and that we can meet the needs of our citizens. We just pray that you watch over our community, that we can continue to thrive, and that we can move forward and be an example for other towns in North Dakota. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Jared could be here just a few minutes. We were up on this.
Okay. All right. Approval of the minutes from the 2019 September 2nd meeting.
Motion to approve and suspend the reading.
Motion by Wolf.
Second.
Second by Stern. Discussions. All in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of the agenda or additions to the agenda. I would like to add under 11C, under old business, junk car ordinance discussion, please. Anything else?
Make a motion to accept the agenda with the noted addition under 11C.
Motion by Pillar,
Second.
second by Wolf. Discussion. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Good timing, Jared.
I'm up.
You're 5A. You are up.
I was late. Dave was giving me a tour of one of the neighborhoods. So, street work. There's basically three big picture items left on the street project. We paid the contractor last month. We're still holding retainage. If you remember, some of those items are cleaning up from the chip seal oil, the seating establishment, and the third one eludes me at the moment here. But
So seating.
Survey monuments.
no, not survey monuments so much. We went and looked at survey monuments. Most of the survey monuments are results of the contractor doing the work. There's a few that are outside the concrete area a little bit, but I think I told you this before, but a lot of your blocks aren't set exactly where they're supposed to be. And when the survey monuments are below the sidewalk, or we had to do the pedestrian ramps to do the work, it's something that they couldn't avoid. They were 5 feet away, and it was due to carelessness. It's not something we can really blame on the contractor. So there are a couple, but you know, it's a judgment call. So we still owe the contractor money, and there's a few that we have to have them pay for, but it's not all of them. So anyway, the turf establishment, basically the gist there is that the thing the contractor has not done is spray for weeds, and that was in the spec to use herbicide to take care of the weeds. People that took care of their yards did things. There's not a weed issue, but in the areas that nothing was done, the weeds are overgrowing. So I talked to Ted this morning, and we're gonna have him spray for weeds, and if that takes care of the issues, hopefully we can close out the project next month. To be determined though. John will be in town tomorrow, and part of his job is to go around and see if there's any bare spots or if it's just weeds in the areas.
So on the bare spots, are you gonna rehydrate seed or?
If they're bare spots, we want to reseed them. Yeah, that's the, there's gonna be spots that are 75% chromium, and there's gonna be spots that are 80%, or if they're like 20%, they should be reseeded.
I've got a spot that doesn't look like there's anything work done at all. I've got another spot that looks like didn't get one seed dropped on it.
Okay.
So I think I'm sure it's like that all over.
It is, from what I've seen. Yeah, so, anyway, we have plenty of money being held back from the contractor. It's September, this is a good time to seed, so I guess hopefully we get this done. And Mayo wants to close this out next month, so they're hopeful that they can get everything done. So that's the plan.
Including cleanup of there's the
There's not much for punch
curb and
lists.
gutter, the oil
Right. I don't know if they will. We're not gonna pay them until they're done. And most of the work is subcontractor work, so Mayo are just assuming have this closed. It's their seeding guy and their chip sealing guy that have to do the work.
Okay.
So, Ted is just asking us to forward him lists of stuff and he's gonna send it to his people. No invoices, just an update there. Expedition Estates. So this project, obviously if you guys have driven out there, you've seen they repaired a sewer problem earlier this year. That excavator is still sitting there. That road from that point to the west is in really, really tough shape. You can see where these guys crack sealed this summer, and there's a lot of cracks and pavement failures that have occurred just in the last few months out there. So in some areas, it's not so bad, but it's just concerning that there's being some blowouts or some sinkholes that are forming here right now, because it really shouldn't. Or if you had home builders out there and they had concrete trucks and they were delivering trusses and
Sure.
semi-loads of stuff, I would expect to see some of this, but we're not. It's just settling without any traffic on it. So the area where it's blown up has to get redone. So from that manhole where they dug it up to the west has got to get reconstructed. And that's at a minimum. The other spots, they may be able to fix. You didn't chip seal that this summer because we knew this work had to be done. So John's coming tomorrow. I'm gonna ask him to paint up the areas that we say need to be done, and then we'll send that to Williams Building Company and what we expect them to do to fix it. I don't know if they will or not. That'll be kind of between you and them, I guess, but as your engineer, we'll recommend what needs to be done, I'll fix it. I'm hopeful that they will, but it'd be a lot of money, Ultimately, if they won't, you could put together an improvement project and assess the costs out there. So we don't have to go there.
right.
Water storage system improvements. Basically, we had, at the last meeting, we presented on it. You guys submitted the State Water Commission funding request. There was a State Water Commission subcommittee meeting on the last Thursday. I was not able to attend that, but Monty sat through that call. I think there was 23 cities that requested funding from the State Water Commission. I wasn't very hopeful that we were going to get money. This wasn't the actual State Water Commission, this was the subcommittee. They're supposed to make recommendations to the State Water Commission for funding. I wasn't able to call in, so I'll ask Monty to give the update on what that says.
Basically, the discussion centered around the ranking procedures and the fact that there were higher priorities than ours, so ours probably wouldn't even be considered by this full State Water Commission until after February, when they do their next round of stuff. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern right now.
Which we kind of expected.
They got pots of money for municipal water supply, for rural water, for general irrigation, for flood control projects and whatever, so each pot has a different amount of money. And like Blake Crosby from North Carolina Cities had recommended cities submit their applications, 23 of them did, and they just don't have enough money at the moment. So hopefully as the year goes on, I don't know how it works. I don't know if they just continuously fill buckets throughout the year or what the procedure is, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'm planning to stay. I don't have anything else on my agenda unless you guys, yeah.
We had talked, it was a number of meetings ago, probably even in winter of last year. The region of our city there on the southwest, where it's very sandy soil up there, and we had a number of freeze-up conditions during the winter. And we had asked if there was something that you guys could look into and maybe offer up some potential solutions to those issues that we have up there. Okay, you guys progressed anything on that?
I don't know if there's an easy answer to that.
Is there an answer?
So from my experience, frost gets much deeper in sandy soil.
Sure.
And some of the cities we have freezing problems and some don't. And Oaks, Lemoore, Medina, those areas are very, very sandy, and they've reported 9-10 foot deep frost during wet winters. So when they do improvements, typically they insulate their water mains,
Okay.
to keep from freezing. But you have to remove the asphalt in order to do that. Other things people have done is they'll just let their water trickle in the winter time in
And
the cities.
that's basically what we've done here is give them some relief and have them do that.
I think one engineering standard detail for water service lines is to do a 7.5 foot deep water main for water service lines. When we're working in like Langdon, Lotno area, for the first state, we go 9 foot deep. Because it all depends on the region and the state you're in, but soil conditions have a lot to do with it too. When there is a chance, insulating should take care of it, but otherwise, I think until you're ready for that, I think letting it trickle is the best answer.
Wasn't there a discussion about a heat tape that we could use during the winter in that line?
Inside the pipe.
Inside the pipe, yeah. Is that something you guys are familiar with at all?
I'm not, but it sounds like it'd work. I mean, if a plumber can get that in there.
The issue is getting through the curb stuff.
Yeah, that's everything that I looked up. A lot of that is designed for like lake cabins and stuff where they're like pumping out of a lake where there's no curb stop, because you feed that down there, first guy that comes and closes that curb stop cuts it off. You know, if a guy
We
knew
don't
that
close
was
that curb stop well, we got the tape, if we know it's at an address, we don't, make sure we don't shut the curb stop off, but we know there's your key tape.
But there is-
Can't you pull it out in the summer,
well,
because that gets inserted in the basement of the house, correct?
but to install it, you'd have to have the curb stop open, so you'd have to shut the main and drain it, to get it. They can't open the water line. You could run it from the house to the curb stop.
Right.
But it's not hard to freeze it from the curb stop to actually to the main.
Had one city put in, sometimes when you have copper lines, you can hook up a welder to them. And it's dangerous because you can burn a house down doing
We've
it.
done that, correct?
Well, this is all plastic, everything that's been freezing. is all-
But we've done that elsewhere in town.
I believe it's kind of fast now, yeah.
But I had a city put in like some type of rods that went down and connected to the pipe by the house and then in the street, and then they could plow between them. But it was pretty jimmy rigged together. It was. All right, so,
I got a question.
yeah,
So on, I guess, Fifth Street, I guess, like northwest, which is not my house. I know I talked to, I guess, like John and Ted, but the pavement got overlaid about an inch higher over the, gutter. And this last spring, I mean, and that did not drain at all. It just like sat in there, and froze, and I guess like they were supposed to do like something about it.
Yeah. I know where you live, I can go check it out.
Okay.
Yeah. It shouldn't be that way, obviously, we do the asphalt next to the curb, it should be like a 1/4 of an inch higher. That's our goal, but it varies a little bit, it's big equipment, but I can go look at it. And if we're supposed to before sorry.
Any other questions for Jared?
Okay, I'll stick around, yeah, thank you guys.
6A, free reduced tolerance for SMC annual meeting where they have their fall dinner and meeting held on October 24th.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Wolf,
Second.
second by Stern. Discussion? All in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Takes us down to 8A, building permit at Long Shots. So they come to you, Shannon, or did you go to them?
I had to go to them. He is adding a little garage type area on the back of the building, just to house his snowplow. He did stop construction until he got approval. He's far enough away from the property line, so he doesn't need a variance or anything, he just needs the footage, since it's commercial.
Okay, any questions for Shannon?
Make a motion to accept the application for building permit.
Motion by Pillar,
Second.
second by Wolf. Discussion. Roll call.
Pillar.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Stern.
Aye.
Omenauer.
Aye, motion carried. Done the reports, no, I'm sorry, variance, we got the 8B, building permit variance request for Sailor.
Okay, these guys I have contact also. They built this building without, she came in about 2 years ago. I went out, found the lot pins, they had it staked out. I said, it's too close to the property line, you need variance. They never came in and talked to me. Lo and behold, I'm out driving around looking for people that need to mow their grass, and I see they built this little building back there. Never got a building permit. It's too close to both sides. They would need a 10-foot rear variance and a 4-foot side variance. She told me they just built it this year, but the grass is very, very well established around it, so I'm thinking it's been there for a lot longer than that. I was worried that it would take up too much of their maximum density, but it does just fall where it's just small enough where it doesn't affect that. So basically, they're okay, other than the fact that they didn't get a permit and they need a variance.
So the options are to move it, is it
They could
on,
move
is it
or
on piers or blocks or
it looks like it's on concrete foundation.
concrete foundation?
Yep, it's a concrete foundation. Or I think there's like fines that could be imposed. I have to double check on the planning and zoning ordinances regarding that, but.
Where's their house at?
Their house is, let's see, that's west. Yeah, the skinny part of this place faces north. It's pretty darn close to their house
313?
too, because they don't have much of a backyard.
Fifth Avenue Northwest.
313 Fifth Avenue Northwest.
Yeah, it's kind of down the street from Cary, right where the cul-de-sac starts.
On the second,
Yeah, look about the second or third house. Where, Blaine and Joyce Lemire used to live, it's next
Yep.
door.
Oh.
Have Google Earth up?
Yeah, so it's back in the cul-de-sac there.
Yep, it's right when the cul-de-sac starts.
Shit
about
must
there.
not be built yet.
No, it wasn't, I checked that.
So as I'm looking at the front of the house, it's back in like the right corner?
It
or-
is on the north side, so like they have this little parking pad next to the house, where
Yep.
it keeps it, it's back there. Back in that corner.
So it's isolated from the neighbors by fences for the other neighbors'
Yeah,
properties.
and there's a lot of trees and stuff there. I mean, like I said, you can't even see it from the street, barely.
A little further up.
Yeah, I think it's this one.
Right there.
Yeah, I mean, the lot, this part, this is off, but it's basically sitting right there.
So between it and the lot line is that whole section of trees and stuff there.
Yeah, in reality, you know, this is kind of off, but it's basically right in next to these trees, kind of tucked in, right in there. On the back corner of the lot. So I mean, it's not an eyesore, but
And there's utility easements back there? Or not?
there must be. Either way, though, he is 15 feet off the back, so that would be fine. Because yeah, there are boxes back there.
So he's 15 feet off the back line?
Yeah, and he's supposed to be 25 off the back.
Oh, okay.
But if he'd have come that far forward, he'd have been running into his garage.
Yeah.
It's really the only place he could have put it.
Shannon, would you please, for the next meeting, let us know if there are fines or penalties?
There is.
If they choose
like-
not to if they choose not to move it, or they don't want to ask for a variance at this point?
Well, that's the only, they are
That's
asking.
their only option at
That's
this
their
point.
only option, yeah. I had kind of talked to Steve about it, and in order to, the way that my impression was that we'd have to almost find them guilty of doing this without permission, and then we'd have to, almost have to talk to Pat about it, and see then, do we have to take them to court before we can start fining them, or, I'm not sure how that all works, because Steve never even had to do it with anybody else in the past.
So we have no precedence on this to where we find anybody in the past?
No, he's never had to do this before.
Nobody in the city of Hazen has ever built something like
That we know of.
That they have, and I've caught a couple of them too, like Dale, but never to this point where they've been infringed on the variance or the setbacks like that.
I know, I guess, like years ago, I know I asked the same thing, and at that time, I didn't think it really spelled out like what the fine was, or I mean, like,
It talks like $100 per day that it goes on until it's resolved, but that's, that's very intense for a shed.
well, I mean, like back then, the thing was, better up, you'd be better off building it like where that you want it, and.
beg for forgiveness?
Yeah.
Ask for permission later, yeah.
Yeah,
Forgiveness.
exactly, yeah, so.
Yeah. Do you wanna still come up with a way to like fine them for not getting permission first, or do you want me to check into that, or just say ahead with it?
I don't know.
I would say let's dig into that just a little bit. I'd like to make a more educated decision on it. We've got these things in place for a reason, to get a building permit so that we're not doing that, and if you just look the other way, I think what you're saying is that,
Then what?
the only
what
thing the
happens-
building permit is just for city revenue, and you do whatever you want anyway. And that's not the point of it, so. I'm not looking to put anybody in prison, but I'd like to just understand that.
I agree, yep, I agree.
So we're gonna hold off until I check it a little bit more?
Yeah.
And maybe he'd be willing to slide it one way or another. Whatever's not over the concrete slab is now on piers, I don't know.
And it does, that is really the only place he could have put it. Otherwise, it would have been too close to the house.
So you're thinking pour a little bit more slab, slide it, and then you'll have a patio on your shed?
So what do we do if we find out someone did this 10 years ago? Are we telling them to move something that's been there for 10 years and that's where we didn't do our job? Is there a statute of limitations on this? Or I know a spot for sure that I'm pretty sure it's probably been violated. But I'm not gonna tell that neighbor that they have to move it right now, but how long do we, what makes sense when it's already done? I can see a fine probably happening. If they decide to leave it, they probably will rather pay the fine than move the shed. I don't know. But if we don't do anything, we just set a huge precedent.
Yep. I agree.
But yeah, thank you, Dan, I agree. Dig into a little bit for us and we'll come back to it. Okay,
Alright.
thank you. 9A, water, sewer, garbage.
Okay, I had a conversation with Dick about a week and a half ago, and they've identified some higher concerned areas of town where there's some water valves and stuff like that that require some excavation to do repairs on. And so they're in the process right now of reaching out to get a bid for cost. They've got a minimum of 5 that have really raised to the top that they want to go after. And depending on costs and stuff like that, there might be as many as nearly a dozen that they want to go after before we get into the winter season. So, and that's part of what they have budgeted for. But so once we get monies established as to what that would be, then we'll talk about it again here at the meeting just to get everybody's blessing.
Anything else?
No, that will do.
Okay, thank you. Street commissioner is not here. Finance busing,
Anything at this time?
police, fire, forestry.
Mike Freilich, I talked to him, although it was September 3rd when he called me, but he's working really hard on getting trees cleaned up, making sure all that stuff is caught up. Also looking at, he's been planting fruit trees in the nursery. He wants to kind of do a community orchard. So he's working on that. And then he also talked to fire department about their electric use. We had Brad Quinnett from Rough Rider Electric come in and he had done a study on it and showed them how they could save money on their electric usage. And some of it was kilowatt demand. Turning off some of those heaters and see how they can survive without all 6 heaters going. They're gonna try that. It was very informative. Brad explained kilowatt demand and all that stuff that I didn't really know anything about. And then also, Casey Lessman was talking to me about upgrading their lights in the office area of the fire hall to LED to also conserve some energy. There's 41 lights with a total of $750, and then parts with $900, so the total is $1,650. He has an estimate from, what is it?
Eric JD.
JD Electric. And so I would like to move that we approve this estimate. Let them go ahead with this.
We have a motion from Wolf to approve the lighting upgrade in the fire hall office area.
Second.
Second by Stern, discussion. And this includes labor, I'm assuming,
I'm assuming it includes everything.
10 hours. Any other discussion?
Also contact Olson.
No.
This is the only estimate that that he got, is my understanding.
It wasn't a bid.
It doesn't meet the requirements for it.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Wolf,
I,
Stern.
Aye.
Pillar.
Aye.
Omenauer.
Aye. Motion carried.
and that is all I have today.
HCD.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing that jumps off the plate.
And nothing from me either, thank you. 10A, starting a bond service agreement. Mike, this sounds like something you'd like to visit on.
Pat reviewed this, and with them serving as our paying agent and registrar for our bonded debt. They're redoing their agreement a little bit. As Pat said, this is kind of across the board. And every municipality that has agreements with Starion will end up executing basically the same agreement. There were some minor things Pat had pointed out. I did with them now. Just a little bit of verbiage with regard to gross negligence or just negligence relating to the service on the bonds. Basically, it's a boilerplate agreement. And we do still have 3 projects that are currently under bonded debt. If there's any concerns, I can go back to them, or I can visit with Mr. Wagner from Arts and Stewart and Wagner, who has served as our bond counsel on some of these, for further information if there are concerns.
Looks good to Pat.
I don't know what choice you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we want them to call on our bonds right now.
Yeah, we need a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Motion by Pillar,
Second.
second by Stern. Discussion. Roll call.
Pillar. Aye. Stern.
Aye.
Wolf.
I,
Omenauer.
Aye. Motion carried.
And I'll execute the originals at the League of States Convention later this week.
All right, 11A 2020 city budget.
Well, it's after 6, it's gonna open the public hearing.
It is after 6. Yeah, you're right. So that's what we're gonna do at this time. We'll open our public hearing for the 2020 city budget. And those of you 3 in the audience or 4. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion from the community, we will close the public hearing. At this time, we'll move back into our regular meeting. And on 11A, we still need to, we did approve it already,
You
correct?
approved the preliminary.
Okay.
As I stated in my notes, if we include the prairie dog funding as part of our revenue into the special fund, our budget obviously looks a lot better, because at this point we aren't proposing any large expenditures out of there. I did put 100,000 in there in case we get the water project going for engineering and those types of things, but otherwise, basically all that prairie dog funding would be revenue. Yeah. Well, no, we're actually creating a fund for that, because there will be reporting requirements to the state on how those funds are used in the future. If you want, you can approve it now. If you think there's something we need to address, we do still have time. It has to be to the county auditor by October 10th. So we would meet one more time if anybody can think of anything. We are still under a slight deficit as far as our budget, but we've looked at it a million ways that I can think of, and I don't know what else we can change.
Okay, so at this time, we can approve it, or if there's any other issues where you think we need to wait for the next meeting, we can do that too. What would the board like to do?
I would make a motion to approve.
Motion by Wolf to approve the 2020 city budget.
I'll second that.
Second by Pillar. Discussion. Casey?
I know during, I guess, the budget meeting, I know I named off a few things to trim off, I guess, in a donation to, on the Parks and Rec, the I guess, CD, levy money and.
Yep, you did, Casey. And I heard, you hear you loud and clear, and I don't think no one else supported trimming those, but it is noted, obviously, that that is your feeling, so we all respect that, obviously. But you're right, those are areas that we could trim. But I feel I would like to see them stay as they are.
I
We
guess
respectfully
my-
disagree, I guess.
My feeling on those is, those are the areas in our town where we have the opportunity to do enhancements and things of that nature that will continue to hopefully draw people to the communities. Because right now, maybe unfortunately, some of the plans and stuff like that aren't really in the hiring mode, so we've got to do more things, I think, in our community to make us a community of choice for folks coming in. So again, I respect the, those are places where, if you're forced to make tough decisions, those are probably areas where you might consider doing that.
And yes, I agree with that, but I mean, I guess we kind of, wasted that, surge money that we got, on a RV park that's, not really being used, so give them any more money,
Well,
I think. 'Cause they-
and I respectfully would say, had some of the plants not gone through the adventures they went through in this last year, we would have probably been implementing larger scale projects that would have brought in outside entities that would utilize those spaces. So I don't think it was a poor judgment type project to support and to implement. It was just that our crystal ball wasn't perfectly clear to show what the future held in some of those areas. So.
I don't remember, Monty, were we able to bank that money, or we had to spend on any infrastructure projects?
My understanding was that everything we were told at that time was it had to be used because they were looking at that one-time funding because everybody had projects they wanted done, so. And with all due respect, 160,000 of that 1.5 went toward that lift station out there. Park got a loan, the RV park itself. It's the lift station that caused that. Yeah.
And then, and then the other, lift station upgrade over the West Hazen too.
Lift station 5, yeah.
Which isn't a waste of money. Obviously, it's a newer, it's new, and it's better capacity, so in the future, hopefully we can run that thing to capacity at some point. You never know, maybe the next group of people sitting around here buy the Miller property and put housing over it. But it was, again, I wish I could remember if it was a use it or lose it type thing. And
And it was.
was it, okay,
I know at that time, I know, because we asked, here on the board, where to spend the money, and there was all kinds of ideas on the bike path, we spent 100,000 on that, well, but instead, the residents have to pay for that now,
sure.
Hindsight is always 20/20.
Any more discussion on the 2020, approving of the 2020 budget? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wolf,
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Stern,
No,
Overdauer.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Speaking of bike paths, before we go to 11B, I'm gonna kind of go out of order. Did we talk, is John seeing the bike path pictures you've taken, or have we,
He's coming up tomorrow,
Okay.
here, said that him and I are gonna walk that.
apparently we have a couple issues
So,
there.
yeah, he's just
thing
saying,
on my list, I forgot.
That you, okay? Bike path, okay.
yeah, John has pictures, but he's actually gonna walk it tomorrow with me and actually look at the spots and stuff.
Great, thank you. All right, down to 11C, junk car ordinance discussion. B, jeez.
B before C.
11B, city property for sale. Monty, we have one written,
None of the offers or bids were received prior to the last Friday's deadline at 3 p.m. I did get a note from one individual who was interested, wondering if the city would consider lesser amounts. And my understanding is, Pat, now that we've advertised, we can list it, or we can basically do however the board wishes to handle it. They don't need to re-advertise it, or they can list it with an agent, or they can put a for sale sign in it and decide on offers as they receive them.
Price of sale.
Yeah.
Contact with the realtor.
all right, well, I think we just put it for sale by, I don't think we need to hire a realtor at this point yet. But if we put a sign in there, on their information to contact City Hall for sale, and I think I still want to hold fast on the price of what we set it at. I don't, the note you got, that person would like to see some improvements. It's as is,
I see it.
as is.
King quotes up there.
So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on that piece of property. It's not, we're in a giant hurry to get rid of it. Don't want to pay taxes on it for years to come, but
One other thing I guess you could consider would be rental. If you want to rent that garage. Just throwing it out there.
I know, I'd rather not, but.
So are you gonna get into the business of,
No.
okay,
Planners.
That's her business, not his business.
I would agree, let's do just that. Put a for sale sign out there, contact the city. For now, we're gonna stick hard and fast to that dollar amount.
Good with that, Nancy?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so Dave, can you get a sign in the yard over there? Thank you. Big sign.
House.
All right, moving on to 11C, junk car ordinance discussion. Last week, Monty and I visited with Jim Wolf. We talked about this in this room, how to, once we publish it, and how to then proceed on to the next step, which would be identifying and notification and following through with, removal or help to remove whatever. But I would like to see us have a group. Individuals, be Shannon and Jim Wolf, if we could, and Nancy, or, to start identifying area properties with these issues. I think that, I'm not sure how we do it with, if Jim walks on a private property to look at a car to see if the tags are expired, but we will have to probably step foot on private property. I don't know, Pat, if that's an issue, if people will think we're trespassing, if we're looking to see what their licenses look like, their license plates and tabs. But anyhow, however you address that, I think you need to start identifying, getting letters out to those property owners saying that, we see that this is the situation, you have this car, boat, camper, trailer, whatever, in violation. Here's a copy of the ordinance. Here's your timeline. If you need help, please contact us. If not, you have X amount of whatever, go by our ordinance, obviously, and start dealing with these properties. So I don't feel like we want to go northwest corner of town, northeast, southwest. I don't think we want to do that, because we're obviously going to be discriminating somehow, by someone's opinion. So I think it might just be, and it's not going to be simple, or it's going to take several days to do it. And I don't know how it gets done, but we do need to get moving and publish it and start the process.
Publication effective October 1st.
That's fine with me, unless anybody else sees it different.
Because, right, we can put a date on there as far as the effective, so long as it's after the published date.
Okay.
Yeah, you could put it here.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody, Casey or Dan, I'll ask Jason too, do you want to be part of that group?
Yeah, no matter.
Okay.
I guess one thing I was gonna add.
Yeah, please.
Back when I was working with, I guess, Steve, about it, and like people, I guess, like cleaning up their yards and stuff, I know that he made the comment that I guess you can only go by as you're on the street or on the sidewalk. You can't go in their yard and like look, so, that wasn't like part of the, I guess, nuisance ordinance, so I don't know if that same language applies now on junk cars, but.
I don't remember that being in there.
Spotting scopes?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah, that's what he said, yeah.
Because they're, the tags are color coded, so it's relatively easy to, with a simple spotting scope to be able to see that.
Well, unless they're,
You gotta have a means.
I guess we can knock and ask too.
That will be a restriction for the paper.
Yeah, be careful though, people accuse you of looking in their windows.
Hey, can you use your phone?
I was just gonna say.
No.
Just make sure we're doing it in the middle of the day when the sun's shining and.
Or I wear yellow vests.
You said drone.
No. Shannon, will you talk to Officer Wolf tomorrow too? And let's try to get a schedule, coordinate this with Nancy, and if Casey wants to be part of that too, please. And
So what are you thinking, like, all four of us are supposed to go around as a group and do this, or what do you?
unless you got a better idea.
Yeah, that's what I decided.
Well, and you might not get all four together at the same time, so at least if there's one of us.
I would hope for at least two people together.
Yeah, but I mean like Jim and you and like me, or Jim and you and Casey, at least one of us and you guys.
Yeah.
Somehow it needs to be understood by the community that we're not gonna make a list of 25 sites and blast.
Yeah.
No,
That it's gonna take some time, and there's always gotta be a first, so that decision may not It may be quite arbitrary.
I'm not sure if we can attach a letter from the city hall saying we would more than willing to help you to remove something if you don't have the means, or I wanna be as gentle as possible and make this, you know, it's not gonna be fun already, but I don't wanna shove it down someone's throat and say, we're gonna have the cops there and you cannot do anything about us hauling your cars away, or your trailer, or your camper, or whatever, so just wanna make sure this is,
Did we ever put a number on it? I don't think we did, where they can't have more than, did we ever do that?
No, it just stipulates that it has to be
License?
functional, licensed, current licensed, not expired licensed. You know, so we just need to make sure that we continue to make sure we're staying on top of our understanding of the ordinance to be able to facilitate it. So yeah, just because a household has a number of vehicles, that's not the basis of the ordinance. It's gonna be licensing current and that they're functional and stuff like that, yeah. And that they're not a health hazard. There were a number of stipulations in our ordinance for it.
Not sitting out there with a bunch of garbage in it and using it for storage or something.
I guess to be fair though, you know, I think we should go after the whole town and
absolutely.
plus a mile and a half outside of town as your jurisdiction. Okay, but
Zoning is a half mile.
well, but,
We haven't exercised extraterritorial beyond the half mile.
no, well, by our Yolo, you know, people have gotten, I guess, speeding, I guess, tickets, I think.
No.
From city cops, that's what I was told.
It's not only does Myron can't take those on, but our cops can go a mile out and still have their jurisdiction, but our jurisdiction with Myron and the city is only half. So they can give a ticket, but we can't do it at all with this in the city.
All right, so that's
I would
the,
agree, I think that's fair.
yeah, me too, that's the discussion, and let's, anybody else add to that, but I think it's time that we get rolling. All right, that's all I have then. Nothing under new business. Approve the bills.
Apologies, but they only got sent out today.
I was just impressed. I thought we had a really good month. Motion to approve the bills as presented.
Motion by Fuller,
Second.
second by Stern, discussion. Roll call.
Pillar.
Aye.
Stern.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Obenauer.
Aye. Motion carried, meeting adjourned.